What's up, guys? This is Veets, and today we're doing another solo playthrough of the final intruder race of the base version of the Nemesis board game. We're playing on Tabletop Simulator again. We're going to be doing a solo run, and we're using the custom mod, credit to the creator, called The King. I'll put a link in the description for how to acquire this mod. You'll only be able to use this mod as well as play Nemesis on Tabletop Simulator if you have purchased Tabletop Simulator first through Steam, then subscribe to the mod using the link in the description. So like I said, we're going to do the VoidSeeders. I'm going to go through all of the setup just to get the board in full view here. So we're going to switch to solo mode, and we're going to choose the VoidSeeders, and I'm going to keep everything else completely vanilla and base. We're just doing base characters, no other fancy bells and whistles, and I'm going to hit confirm. I'm going to choose one player, and you can see that Tabletop does a lot of the setup just like in the other versions, and I'm sure you can already see some differences, and we're going to get into the differences in the setup as soon as we finish the setup part of it here for our character draft. So let's take a look at our objectives here. Cleanup crew, send the signal and the nest must have been destroyed, or send the signal and the ship must have been destroyed. And destination Earth, the ship must reach Earth. Okay, so man, I'm probably gonna end up picking the mechanic here and go for destination Earth, just so that I can keep the hibernatorium as an option in case I do not get the hatch room in this game. So let's go with the mechanic. I would otherwise pick captain here for survivability's sake, but I think for our objectives the mechanic is the stronger choice. I'm going to hit confirm, and then we're going to hit start. Okay, so just like my other videos or my other solo playthrough videos, I'm going to start by explaining how the VoidSeeders work, and then I'm going to get into the playthrough itself. So let's start with the differences in the setup. So you can see that most of the board setup is done the exact same way. You have your blue character corpse in the hibernatorium with you at the start of the game. You have all of your room tiles already randomly placed, all of your exploration tokens already randomly placed, the engines are laid out randomly, the number of escape pods are corresponding to the number of players in your game. So for a one-player game, there are 2 escape pods that start in the locked position. There's a randomized coordinates card. The track for the coordinates always starts on B, and the time track, of course, starts on the first space. So there's one difference that you can see already, which is that there are exploration tokens in the engine rooms. So that's different than normal games. For the VoidSeeders, the engine rooms each get their own exploration token. And when you resolve an exploration token in an engine room, you would resolve the effect on the token. However, you would ignore the number because there is no room counter or item counter for the engine rooms. One difference in the setup that you cannot see is that the room covered in slime, it's one of the rooms with the number 2 on the back, so they're not in every game. But they will definitely not be in any VoidSeeders game because the room covered in slime is removed from the pool before setting up the rest of the tokens randomly, or the rest of the tiles randomly. And the reason for that is because the slime mechanic does not exist in the VoidSeeders. So another part of the setup that you can't see is that the slime exploration tokens as well as the silence exploration tokens are removed from the game, along with the room covered in slime room tile. And then there are 3 additional new tokens, exploration tokens, added to the pool prior to placing them randomly, and those are the layer exploration tokens, and those are going to be in every game. The reason they're going to be in every game is because after you remove the slime tokens and the silence tokens and then add your 3 layer tokens, there comes out to be an exact number of exploration tokens compared to the number of rooms that they're placed in on the board. So every token that is left in the pool after removing your slime and silence tokens is then randomly placed somewhere on the board, on every room as well as in each engine room. And I'm going to zoom in now on the character board to show you that the slime space, where you would normally put a marker when you get slimed, is covered up by a new card called your Insanity Track. And you can see that this card also covers up where your miniature model picture is. And the reason for that is because there is no such thing as a larva in the VoidSeeders expansion as well. So you know, those are probably two things you're really happy to hear about, is that there is no slime in VoidSeeders, and you cannot be infested by a larva. There is no larva miniature, kind of like in the Carnomorphs. It just doesn't exist. So the insanity track, essentially, as you gain insanity, and I'm gonna go through this in some more detail in a second. This will essentially drive what kind of intruder ends up joining you in cases like surprise attacks or other game effects. So that's going to be a good segue into the new decks that are used in the Intruders expansion for the VoidSeeders. So just quickly, I'll note that everything else for the player setup is the same. This help card would typically be replaced with a VoidSeeder help card, but that's shown at the top right here with all these other help cards. So let's look at the new unique deck called the Panic deck. And kind of like the character mutations deck that comes with the Carnomorphs, this is unique to the VoidSeeders. And this is what your insanity track is going to be. Essentially, raising it and lowering it is going to most of the time be driven by the effects of these cards. So essentially, whenever you're instructed to resolve a panic card, you would flip over the card, and then you'll essentially resolve it in 2 steps. The first step is by looking at the number in the top left there. And if your insanity is not at that level yet, so if it's at 4 or below in this case, you would raise your insanity level step by 1 and ignore the rest of the card. So you would not resolve the effect. Alternatively, if your insanity level is high enough, but you cannot resolve the effect on the card, for example, place a malfunction marker in your room. If there's already a malfunction marker there, then you cannot resolve that effect. And so instead, you would also then raise your insanity level by 1 step on your insanity track. If you are high enough in insanity, so let's look at this card. If I'm at 5 insanity, then I would resolve the effect, which is heart attack. My character dies. So that would be a pretty brutal one to have to resolve. So I'm just going to shuffle this back in. So again, to summarize, I'm going to draw a new card. So this is a lower number. If I was insanity level 2, I would just resolve the effect on the card. If I was only at insanity level 1, I would raise my insanity level 1 step and ignore the rest of the card. If I was insanity level 2 and I cannot resolve the effect at the bottom, then I would just raise my insanity level step by 1, bringing me to 3. So one special note about the panic cards and resolving them that I should add here when I'm explaining them is the new mechanic for the interruption card. So the interruption card, as you know, is typically used to just interrupt the action of another character in your room. So the interruption card in the VoidSeeders actually has an additional effect where if there is someone else in your room and they're about to resolve the effect of a panic card, not counting just the raising the insanity level step. If someone else is in your room and they only had 1 insanity in this case and they were resolving this card, you can't interrupt them gaining that insanity step. However, if they had 2 insanity and they're resolving this card and they're about to resolve the effect at the bottom, so deal 1 light wound to your character and undress 1 serious wound, another character in your room can kind of spare you from this effect by interrupting you. And in such a case, you would not resolve the effect. They would have to spend their interruption card. And in this case, it doesn't fall into that category of because you can't resolve the effect, you now need to increase your insanity level. Because you're being interrupted, essentially just nothing happens. There are other panic cards in the game, for example, that could harm other characters in your room, which gives that card a lot more potency, the interruption mechanic a lot more potency, because if I'm in a room with somebody that's about to deal damage to me due to a panic card effect and I have my interruption card, I of course don't want them to resolve that effect, and so I'll play it. So sticking with the panic theme here, I'm going to go back to the track. So like the card was describing, or like I was describing when we were looking at the card, if you're ever instructed to go up in insanity, you just raise this one step. There are mechanics in the game such as using your rest card, taking a shower, and I'm going to go through those in more detail toward the end of the setup portion of the video, or the tutorial portion of the video, that can let you go down in insanity by one step. However, you have to note the arrows and the directions that they're pointing at each interval before you can determine if you even can go up or down in insanity. So in all cases you can go up, of course. But let's say you're at insanity level 3, you can see that this arrow is only pointing from 2 to 3. It's not pointing back from 3 to 2. And that means you cannot do those things I just described, such as using a rest card or using a shower room, to go down from 3 to 2, because there is no arrow pointing back down. So this is really the only section here where essentially once you've gotten to 3, you cannot go back to 2 unless there's any specialty cases, which I can't think of right now, but that we might see during the playthrough. Alright, so let's go through the rest of the differences in the setup. So we already looked at the panic deck. You can see that the VoidSeeders also come with their own unique VoidSeeder attack and VoidSeeder event decks. And these are resolved in the same way that you would in the other games. The blood symbol on the top left is to do damage checks on aliens' damage to see if they die or not. And then when you're taking damage, you would resolve it in the same way as the other games. You check the symbol, and then if the symbol is there, or sorry, you check the symbol and compare it to the intruder type in your room attacking you. If it's there, then you resolve the effect. Otherwise, the attack misses. The event deck also works similarly to the other games. You would check the movement step first, so any corresponding intruders of that type will move through corridor 1 in this case. And then you resolve the effect in character order. So each character alone in a room and not in combat draws and resolves a panic card. Okay, so this is one way that you would have to resolve a panic card through a event card in the event phase. So events work very similar to the other games. And then we can move now over to the VoidSeeder board and the differences there. So I'm going to zoom in on it and show you right in the middle here there are destroyed layer spaces. So this is whenever you would kill a layer, you would place a new layer in a new spot. And the layers are relevant because they can be discovered through exploration tokens. So remember what I mentioned before, 3 layer tokens are added to the bag. Essentially that's a new effect where essentially if you reveal a layer token, there is now a layer in that room. And layers have their own unique mechanics, kind of like fire, how fire works in the other games. If you end your turn or you finish your second action in a room on fire, you would take a light wound. The way that the layers work is that if you ever finish your second action or end your turn in a room with a layer, you need to roll for noise in that room. And that's pretty much the only time that I can think of where you have to roll for noise when you're in combat. When you are in a room with a layer, you are considered to be in combat, so any type of rules regarding in and out of combat should be taken note of when you're in a room with the layer. You are in combat. And like I said, you would roll for noise if you end your turn there. Layers can be attacked, and you'll check their damage effects, which I'll explain later. And if they're destroyed, you would place a layer here. And every time you destroy a layer, you're one step closer to removing this game's queen from the board, and it's called the despoiler in the VoidSeeders. And that is the only way that you can remove the despoiler from the board. If the despoiler is in your room, any damage you do to it effectively has no effect other than the possibility for it to run away and escape. So any damage accumulation that's done to it does nothing. You would still check an intruder attack card to see if you made it run away. But the only way to actually remove it from the board and kill it is upon destroying the final layer. When you destroy that third layer, the despoiler can never show up on the board if it hasn't already. And if it is already on the board, it is instantly killed. Okay, so looking at the rest of the intruder board, there are 5 eggs that start in the nest, and there are 3 weaknesses that are randomized to start the game. And if I zoom in on them, you can see a difference here on the left. So the usual character corpse weakness is replaced by a character insanity level weakness, and you can reveal the corresponding weakness card for character insanity level when there is a character in the laboratory room that has insanity level 3 or higher. So if you fulfill those conditions, you can then reveal this weakness. So the character corpse objects don't really have any purpose in this game because their weakness has been replaced by this character insanity level. The other 2 weaknesses you'll be familiar with. They are intruder carcass and intruder eggs, and those mechanics work the same way. Bring the object to the lab, resolve or reveal the corresponding weakness. And unlike the cardomorphs adaptations where it makes them stronger, these are weaknesses, so they will make the VoidSeeders weaker, of course. So looking at the left side of the board here, I'm just going to go through the naming of the new VoidSeeder intruders. So creepers are equivalent now. In this game, they're called lurkers. Adults are called whisperers. Breeders are called stalkers. And like I said before, the queen is called the despoiler. There are no larvas, like I said before, but here are what the layers look like. Kind of like on the picture on the intruder board. I'll just zoom in on it. Kind of does a bird's eye view of it, but this is the model you would place in the room if you discover a room with a layer token. And just a quick side note, layers cannot move. Looking at the tokens themselves, I'm just going to draw a random one here. You can see they have an exclamation point on one side, and what you're familiar with, a number with a warning sign on the back. And actually in the physical version or the physical expansion, it's actually just a double-sided token with a number and a warning. So using this as an example, this would just be double-sided, showing this face on both sides. But in the tabletop versions, which doesn't have any effect to the game and how it's played out, it just ends up having an exclamation point on the back. But the reason why there's no symbol on the tokens themselves is because you would refer to your insanity track instead to see what kind of intruder shows up into your room. So the higher you are in insanity, the stronger or higher level of intruder you're going to be going up against when you have to resolve any types of encounter. So if we were to look at this example, the number on the back is still used to resolve any sort of surprise attack. So you would check this number against the number of cards you have in hand, and if that number is higher, the number on this token is higher than the number of cards you have in hand, then it will surprise attack you. And that's it for the tokens. I'm just going to quickly zoom in on the help cards here because the intruder bag development steps as well as the event phase steps are different in the VoidSeeders expansion. So you can pause the video and take a look. Of course, you're going to see these the effects of all of these during the playthrough, but if you want to take a second to pause the video and read these now, you can. And for the last part of the setup that's different than the usual games is how the intruder bag is set up. So you'll see that there's 4 in the bag here. I'm just going to pull them out to show you what they are. And there's nothing left, so I think there's actually an issue here because the intruder bag is supposed to be set up with 1 blank, 2 random VoidSeeder tokens, then add 1 additional random VoidSeeder token for each player taking part in the game. So it's done that step where it's done the blank and the VoidSeeders. However, after you pick your characters, you're supposed to put a token, panic token, of the corresponding color. So in my case, I would need to put the orange panic token in the bag as well. And I don't know where the orange panic token or any panic token is. I don't want to screw up with the script. I don't know if I could just use this instead. So instead, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my character draft card and place that in the bag. And anytime that is drawn, it'll be essentially like I drew the panic token for my character. So let's just make sure it's all randomized. It still is. Okay, so I tested it out and it does indeed get randomized as if it was another token. So I'm just going to play it like that. I'm not sure why they missed the insanity tokens, but in every other way, this script is amazing. So I think we're just about ready to start the game, but before we start the game and start taking our actions, I will start to explain the differences in all game mechanics, such as dealing damage to layers, surprise attacks, and the new effects that certain rooms have with respect to your insanity track. Okay, so let's start by making one final note on the insanity track. The insanity level can never go above 5. If you're ever instructed to increase your insanity level when you're already at 5, your character instantly dies. So be careful and try to manage your insanity track for that reason, as well as just to dumb down the aliens that are showing up in your room during encounters. Alright, so let's start taking a better look at layers and how they work. So I'm going to pull a token here and I'm just going to put it in this room for the sake of an example. I'm not going to place it on there just in case the script runs, but let's say it's in this room. I'm going to place it next to it. So layers can only be put on the board through an exploration token, and again there are 3 of them. And essentially whenever you move into a room and discover a layer, you do not have to make a noise roll for that movement. However, like I said before, every time you end your second action or end your turn in a room with a layer, you then have to roll for noise for each time that you do so. And whenever you're in a room with a layer, you're considered to be in combat, and they count as intruders essentially for all game effects, such as if there was this layer here and I'm here, then I can throw a grenade into this room to do damage to that layer. So it's considered to be an intruder for all game effects, as well as you are considered to be in combat when you are in a room with one. Alright, so like I said before, layers cannot move through any means, so whether that's retreating or through event cards, they are not able to move. And moving on to checking their damage, so when you do damage to a layer, you actually draw 2 VoidSeeder attack cards, and you compare the number of damages that you've done to it to the higher number of the 2 cards that you drew. And in this case, the higher number is 4, so if there is 4 or more damage done to the layer, then it is considered destroyed. And you need to draw 2 new cards for every time you do damage to a layer, same way as all the other base games work. When you do destroy a layer, you place an intruder carcass in the room, and that's actually the only way that intruder carcasses are placed on the board, because thematically the VoidSeeders, and this is kind of one of the reasons I like this expansion so much, is because it's unique to the other expansions, such that they're a figment of your imagination essentially. The layers are physical beings that you can destroy, and that's why they leave carcasses behind, and that's relevant because that's the only way you're going to be able to grab one to analyze the intruder carcass weakness. But all other intruders, when you kill them, they essentially fade out of your hallucination's existence. They don't leave anything behind. So like I said, you look at the higher number, and if it is equal to or lower than the amount of damage on the layer, it is destroyed. Place a carcass in the room, and then place the miniature in the first destroyed layer slot, and you're one step closer to removing the despoiler from the game. If, however, one of these intruder attack cards drawn is a retreat symbol, if either of them are, then no matter what the other number is, the layer is not considered destroyed. So it would be pretty unlucky to get a nice low number as one of your 2 cards, enough that it would have killed it, only for the other one to be a retreat symbol, which means that no matter what, it is still alive, no matter how many damage markers you placed on it. And to hit a layer, you need to roll at least a creeper symbol. So just going to try to find one. Yep, so you need to roll at least that to do 1 damage to the layer before adding any other additional effects like gun perks, etc. and then you would move on to resolve the damage check. And then the last note on layers is that they cannot harm you during the event phase in the intruder attack step. So you are considered to be in combat, but they do not attack you in the event phase. If you move out of a room within a layer, it does not attack you on your way out. However, if you miss a melee attack on a layer, it does still deal you the serious wound. So if you roll a blank against a layer, you're dealt a serious wound. And discovering a layer does not force anyone to pick objectives. It's kind of like when you discover the nest. When you discover the nest and there's eggs in it, you're not picking an objective at that point. It's only when the first actual Voidseeder miniature is put onto the board that's where you'll be forced to put an objective. It does not count for layers. Okay, so let's move on to the injury effect for all the different intruder types other than layers. So when you're fighting a lurker or a creeper equivalent, you draw 2 intruder attack cards or Voidseeder attack cards, and you check against the lower number. When you are fighting an adult or a whisperer, you only draw 1 attack card and check the blood symbol. So this is essentially in line with the base game. If you're fighting a stalker or a breeder equivalent, you draw 2 attack cards and you compare with the higher number. So that's the same way the layers work. You compare with the higher number, and whenever you're drawing 2 cards, whether it's when you're fighting a creeper or a stalker, a lurker or a stalker, if either of the symbols is retreat, then the Voidseeder retreats. It does not die no matter what the other blood icon is. And like we talked about before, if you're ever fighting the Despoiler, it cannot receive any damage. All you would do is draw 1 Voidseeder attack card and check if the retreat symbol is present. And if it is, then it does retreat. And then intruder movement is resolved during retreats in the same way, as well as other movement effects such as event cards. You would draw an event card and look at the top right number. So I'm just going to draw this. If the Despoiler was in your room and you made a retreat, it would go through corridor 1. One additional note on intruder movement for the Voidseeders. Voidseeders ignore closed doors. So if there is a Voidseeder adjacent to you through this corridor and there's a closed door here and it's told to move through this corridor, the door is not destroyed. It essentially just fades through it and shows up in your room. Doubling back to the injury effect, if you ever do manage to get enough injuries on an intruder such that it dies, it's technically not dying per se, because remember, these are figments of your imagination. So you do get to remove the intruder from the board. We are not placing a carcass where it was slain. Again, carcasses can only show up where destroyed layers were. As well as whenever you remove a miniature, you actually have to replace another random Voidseeder token back into the bag. So thematically, it's like you've fended off that figment of your imagination, but it's still lurking in the back of your mind somewhere. So you return a token back to the bag to represent this. In the base versions, you actually, once an intruder is destroyed, you would not return a token to the bag. In Voidseeders, you actually do have to do that. Taking a look at the last 2 decks that we didn't look at before, that's the Serious Wound and Contamination deck. So Serious Wounds work the same exact way. You suffer the debuff and you can dress them and heal them same way as the other versions. Contamination cards are all the same as far as some of them being clear and some of them being infected, but the way you resolve them is slightly different. Based on the scan. So if you're ever doing something that allows you to scan your cards, such as using the rest card or the shower room or the canteen room, if you ever reveal a infected result, no matter where you currently are on the insanity track, you shoot all the way up to 5. So think about it as being that near-death scenario that a larva being added to your character board would typically do in the base game when you get an infected result. So yeah, be careful when you're using rest to scan your cards. Same thing with the shower room or the canteen room. There is also a slight difference in the contamination check at the end of the game, and I'm going to go through that later as the last part of the tutorial. Alright, so we just talked about the rest card and the shower room and the canteen, but we need to add just a little bit more clarity on those rooms because they have an additional effect. So remember how earlier in the tutorial I said that if you're ever at 5 insanity and you're instructed to go up in insanity, you die. So that would really only take place when resolving panic cards, or maybe some other effects. When you're scanning and you get an infected result, so if you're using the shower room or your rest card and you decide to use that card to scan your cards, and you're already at 5 insanity and you get an infected result, you just stay at 5, nothing happens. You're not technically moving higher than where you currently are because that infected result would shoot you up to 5 while you're already at 5. So in that specific example, you do not die. But another note about the rest card, the shower room, and the canteen, and this is important because the rule book is not modified. Well, you can see it in the VoidSeeders rule book, but it's easy to forget. Is that you can choose to use those cards, or you can choose to use the rest card or those room actions for an additional effect, which is to reduce your insanity level by 1. So if you have the rest card, the text on the rest card usually just says scan your cards, and that's one option you can still do, and you would resolve it based on what we just discussed. However, what's not on the card is the additional effect that in the VoidSeeders expansion you can use it for, which is simply to just reduce your insanity level by 1. So if I was at 3, for example, I had the rest card, which I don't right now, but if I did, I could just play the rest card to, when you're at 3, you cannot go down. So bad example, let's start at 2 instead. If I was at 2, I can play my rest card and just bring it back down to 1. And that's not stated on the card, so that's why I'm trying to highlight that here. However, it is stated in the VoidSeeders rulebook. And then the same thing goes with the shower room and the canteen room, because those are rooms that effectively allow you to do what the rest card says. While you're in that room, you can choose to scan your cards. When you're in those rooms and you use the room action, you can, instead of doing the normal rooms action, you can choose to just reduce your insanity level by 1, same way you would with a rest card example. Alright, and sticking with the theme of rooms having their own unique abilities in the VoidSeeders expansion, let's talk about the surgery room, as well as the antidote item, which is kind of related to the surgery room. So the way the surgery room works is, and this might be up to interpretation, because what the rulebook states is that when a character performs a surgery procedure action, they reduce their insanity level to 3 instead of removing a larva from their character board. All other rules concerning surgery are the same as in the base game. So you would take your light wound, you would pass, and whatnot. And what I believe is up to interpretation is that the way I play it is that you must be at level 5 to use that room's action to reduce to 3. For example, you can't be at level 4 to reduce yourself to 3. And the reason why I think that is because being at level 5, in my opinion, is what represents the equivalent of having a larva on your board. And if you were to put yourself in that setting in the base game, then if you don't have a larva on your character board yet, and you're in the surgery room in the base version of the game, then you wouldn't have any larva to remove. And you're not at that near-death scenario, or at least the way I think it should compare, is that a larva isn't on your board until you're at level 5. So you can play it however you want. It makes the game a little bit easier if you were to use the surgery room when you're at level 4 instead, to allow that flexibility to also use the surgery room to go down to 3. But there's other cheaper ways to do that, just by using a rest card, for example. So I like to play it whereas you need to be level 5 to use the surgery room for its action of reducing your insanity from 5 to 3. But if you want to play it where you have the flexibility of doing it when you're also at 4, then go ahead. The rulebook, in my opinion, kind of leaves it up to interpretation. So looking at the antidote card, which works very similarly, you would resolve the card normally, scanning your cards and whatnot, and then I would treat it the same way if it was me playing. If you are at level 5, then you can use the antidote card to bring your insanity down to 3 and resolve all other effects of the card. And we already talked about the laboratory room. The only main difference is that the character insanity level weakness is replacing the character corpse weakness that is typically in the other versions of the game. Alright, so let's start looking at how encounters work. So like in the base, other versions of the game, you would resolve an encounter if you ever place noise where there is noise already in a corridor, and you would draw from the intruder bag. Also, side note, if you ever enter a room with a VoidSeeder already in it, that's not an encounter. You're not resolving an encounter. However, you are immediately considered to be in combat. So let's say you did trigger an encounter through a noise roll. The effect depends on what you draw from the bag. So let's just draw a random card. So, random token. So we would resolve this in the following way. So because it is a random VoidSeeder token, we would first check our insanity level and see what type of VoidSeeder will be joining us. So in this case, we're going to get a lurker because we're currently at insanity level 1. So we would take a lurker from the bag, place it in the room we're in, and then check to see if we get surprise attacked. And it's done the same way as the other versions. If the amount of cards you have in your hand is equal to or higher than the number on the token, then you are protected from the surprise attack. And the way surprise attacks work in the VoidSeeders expansion is you do not draw a VoidSeeder attack card. You instead just gain a contamination card into your discard pile, and you would resolve a panic card. And then I forgot to mention, the first step you would actually do is remove noise from all corridors adjacent to the room that the encounter is taking place. So that's the first step. Then you would check the bag and resolve what I just said if it is a random VoidSeeder token. And if it was, you would just place the token aside once you're done putting the intruder in the room. If you ever have to place an intruder miniature and there are none left in the bag, then you would instead place a miniature of the immediate lower level than that. So for example, if you had to place a stalker in your room but there are no stalker miniatures remaining, then you would place a adult or a whisperer instead. Alright, let's put this token back in the bag. If instead of pulling a random VoidSeeder token, you pull, after removing noise from your corridor, you pull your character insanity token. What you would do is place a noise marker in each corridor connected to the room where the encounter took place, and the player whose character triggered the encounter resolves a panic card. The color of the token is not important in this case, so if you drew any panic token, red, blue, whatever, you would resolve these steps. And then you would return the insanity token to the bag. And then while the blank is out here, the last type of token you could draw is the blank. And if it is the blank, you would place a noise marker in each corridor connected to the room where the encounter took place, and then return the blank back to the bag. And again, everything is shown here for the VoidSeeder encounter help card that you can always refer to if this happens to you during a game and you don't remember. Alright, and the last thing we need to explain is the event phase differences. So I'm going to zoom in on the new help cards for the VoidSeeders, and virtually everything on the event phase is the same with the exception of step 9 there, called lurking. And it says on here, flip this card to see the lurking summary. And you can also see in step 10 it says flip this card to see the bag development summary. There actually is no back of this card, you can't flip it, but this is what the back of the card would look like. This explains what you would do in those steps, as well as what happens in the lurking step. So I'm just going to hold this open. You can pause the video. I'm going to read through it here. You can skip ahead to the chapter where we start the playthrough if you don't feel like reading it. So in the intruder bag development step, if you draw a random VoidSeeder token, you would return the VoidSeeder token to the intruder bag. All players perform a noise roll in order unless their character is already in combat. For a panic token, you would return the token to the bag, and the character of a corresponding color resolves a panic card. So one special exception to this is, let's say a character died earlier and their token still exists in the bag. If you were to draw that token, you would instead remove that insanity token from the bag and draw a new token, and then resolve that effect. If you draw the blank, return the blank token to the bag and add a random VoidSeeder token to the bag. So for the lurking step, how you would resolve that is you find rooms that contain any VoidSeeder not in combat and with no character in any of the neighboring rooms. Step 2 would be to place a noise marker in each corridor connected to these rooms, unless there's already one there. And step 3 would be to remove all VoidSeeders in these rooms from the board and add one random VoidSeeder token to the bag for each VoidSeeder removed this way. So essentially what happens is, when you move far away enough from any intruders on the board, they sort of fade out of existence. They come off the board and you put their corresponding tokens back into the bag. However, when you do remove them in this way, noise gets placed in those surrounding those rooms. So the way the VoidSeeders playthrough usually pans out is there's a lot more noise accumulation, and there's typically less intruders that pile up on the board. And the last thing I need to explain is the contamination check. So if at the end of the game you have accumulated a lot of contamination cards, you're still not out of the woods yet, just like in other versions of the game. And essentially, if you're still alive at the end of the game, you'll need to gather all your cards, including your discard, your hand, and your draw deck, including all contamination cards. And for each contamination card, you need to raise your insanity level by 1. The insanity level of any character cannot exceed level 5 during this step, so you can't die during this step from having too many contamination cards. Each player whose character has an insanity level on 5 at this point shuffles all their cards to create a new action deck and draws the top 4 cards. If there is at least one contamination card present in those 4 cards, whether it's infected or not, then the character dies. Characters with an insanity level of 5 skip step 1 and resolve 2 directly. So if you're already at insanity level 5, you don't need to count all your contamination cards. You just shuffle everything, draw the top 4 cards, and if any of them are contaminated, you die. Otherwise, you essentially just count all your contamination cards that you have at the end of the game, raise your insanity level 1 step for each one that you have, and then if you're at 5 at this point, you then need to do the step 2, which is shuffle them all, draw 4 cards. Okay, so I think that's it as far as anything I can explain for the tutorial and a setup. So I'm excited to get started, and I think we're ready to take some actions. So let's go. Alright, so let's get this thing going. Let's look at the 2 objectives again, just as a reminder. The ship must reach Earth, easy. And nest must have been destroyed, or the ship must have been destroyed. So kind of 2 things that are working against each other. But this one, I need to send the signal as well as do stuff to make sure the ship's destroyed. This one's pretty straightforward. So I'm going to proceed as if I'm going to fix everything to make it to Earth. And then as a last resort, if I can botch something toward the end to make it explode, I'll send the signal anyways if I don't trigger an encounter first and need to pick an objective. So, okay, I'm going to turn on the auto movement tool. So essentially what this will do is every time I move into a room, it'll automatically set it up. I will need to double check that it's having the number of items in the room, but otherwise should make it for a quicker experience. So I'm going to discard interruption to do my first move, which is going to be to move. So when you have the auto movement tool on and you're using this mod, all you have to do is drop the character in the room. You don't actually have to flip anything, and if you do, you might mess it up. So if you're following the script, just do this, just let go. Alright, and then you'll see that it did my noise roll for me automatically and placed it in a corridor. So that's all good to go. We found the shower room, so that's a nice room to find when playing the VoidSeeders. I might need to use that to bring my insanity down 1. Let's double check the token here and see what... So there was a number 1 on it, so we don't really know if the script acknowledges solo mode or not in that sense until we find another room to help us double check that. So Because fire can ruin my game, I'm just going to go ahead and use pyrotechnics now so I can get rid of a fire. Discard a fire marker from the room you are in. That costs me one more card. I'll get rid of computer skills, I guess, to remove that fire. Dunzo. Alright, I did not take damage from the fire because it was only my first action that I took that revealed the fire. Had I still been in this room and it was still on fire, if I did not put it out, then I would have taken a light wound. That's the same thing as the base game. So while we're here, I guess searching this room is probably a good idea. So let's search. And then I like my ingenuity card. Craft an item. You can use any yellow item as the taser symbol. So the mechanic can usually come out with a flamethrower in most games if they play their cards right. So I'm going to try to play those cards right and pick 2 yellow items from the white room. Neither of these will help me. Well, I mean, I guess they could. So let's see here. I guess I'll keep clothes. Even though there's no slime, I can dress a serious wound with it. That's assuming that I don't use it later just to craft something. Plus, I don't want to take up a hand spot right now. Alright, so let's double check this. You can use any yellow item. So that's technically a yellow item. So we're halfway there to a flamethrower. I need to reduce the item counter. And let's see, kind of a boring turn if I was just to pass here, wouldn't it? But I do like ingenuity. That's fine. I'll draw it again. We gotta make some moves. We're playing solo. There's not other people helping us with the ship. I do want to take this path to the cockpit because this might be the hatch. I don't want to not check some of these rooms, so I might need the hatch. So let's see. Engine control room is another good one to find. Because now I can check the status of the engines all in one go. So that's a nice one to have for the solo mode, as well as I can search for more yellows, hopefully find chemicals, and that will allow me to make my flamethrower. So I did find a layer, so that's kind of nice. For the first part of layer discovery, it says that you do not make a noise roll for this movement. But I'll need to double check the rules if that applies to your second roll. So the way I'm reading it is that if this was my first move and I discovered it, I wouldn't have had to make a noise roll. But since this is technically me ending my round in a room with a layer, then I now need to roll for noise. And that's why no noise was placed when I discovered the room. So the script acknowledges that I discovered a layer and it didn't make me do a noise roll. But now I am going to roll for noise, so let's do that. Oh, a silence. Excellent. Okay, so I'm doing pretty good for as far as noise is concerned. Alright, so that was a quick and dirty player phase. So we're in the event phase now. We're going to move the time track. There are no intruders attacking. Let's reference our card here. No intruders attacking, no fire damage, resolve event card. So nothing's moving, of course. Ship AI failure. If there are at least 2 malfunction markers in rooms with the computer, start the self-destruct sequence. Otherwise, place a malfunction marker in the room with the lowest room number with a computer. Okay, so this is the only room with a computer, and so we're going to place a malfunction marker in there. And that'll be it for the event. So we can move on to the lurking step, which won't apply here because, if you remember, you have to find rooms that contain any VoidSeeders not in combat and with no characters in any of the neighboring rooms. Since there are no VoidSeeders, we get to skip this and move on to the intruder bag development step. So we're going to draw a token, and it's a random VoidSeeder token, which means we need to return that to the bag. All players perform a noise roll in order unless their character is already in combat with a VoidSeeder or layer, which applies to me. I am in a room with a layer, so I don't need to do anything. So that was a very good event phase for me. And we get to start the new player phase. So I'm drawing up to my 5 cards. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to, well, I don't think I can, since I'm technically in combat, I can't even fix this room right now or use the room. So, or search it even. That's kind of unlucky. I don't think my priority here is to kill this. You know, I could do some damage and come back. Like shoot it once and come back. Okay, so let's do that. Let's use our demolition card to shoot it. Nice, and then for my weapons perk, that counts as 2 damage. And remember, we're drawing 2 VoidSeeder attack cards and choosing the higher number, which is 5. And so it is not dead. Alright, and since I put 2 damage on it, I'm actually kind of inclined to shoot it again, because on the off chance this is fire, I don't want to take the random light wound for it, so let's do that. Let's shoot it again, because I fully intend on making a flamethrower. Nice, another 2 damage. So let's draw our attack cards. There's a 4 and a 4. Very nice, so I destroyed this layer. Layer destroyed. Putting a carcass in here. That was best case scenario. So let's search this room. Oh, let's check the token here. So this token was a 3, so it did reduce. It does acknowledge a solo player mode to set the counter, so nice. So now I'm going to reduce the item counter by 1. Grab a yellow item, chemicals. No, unfortunate. Oh, but I found it. Well, I found a taser anyway. But let's see. Discard the malfunction marker from the room you're in. Repair or open, close doors. Yeah, I mean we'll keep the tools. I already have ways to use technical corridors, so I'm not going to keep that card. Okay, let's use fast repairs to fix this room. And then I'm going to use my last card to pick up this carcass, just in case I find the lab. So that is that. I did not have to choose an objective when the layer was revealed because that's not technically a VoidSeeder. Okay, so we're going to move the time track. No intruder attack step, no fire damage. Resolve event card. Nothing's moving, of course. Hunt. Move every VoidSeeder not in combat to a neighboring room with a character if possible. If there are several rooms to choose from, move the VoidSeeder to a room with the lowest room number. Otherwise, don't move it. Alright, cannot resolve that, so that's good. We cannot resolve lurking either. Okay, so far it's been really nice to me. And that's a VoidSeeder token, which simply means that we return it to the bag. All players perform a noise roll in order, unless we're already in combat. So I do need to do my noise roll this time because I don't have that layer here anymore. And we got a 4, so we're going to place our token there. Okay, so that's it for the event phase. Let's reshuffle our deck and start a new player phase. Get my 5 cards. Alright, let's see what we got. So let's search the room again. No more items. Chemicals. Gosh darn it. Okay, we're gonna keep the duct tape, I guess. And then we're gonna use the room's action, and I'm gonna do that by using computer skills. So I only have to pay this card. Alright, let's see what we got here. So we're doing bottom token, of course. That's how I've been playing it recently, and the reason for that is because when you do Alt or Shift Alt and look at the bottom token, if you were playing with other people, if you were to do this secretly, the bottom token is what we would be really caring about. So that one's working. So I'm going to change the status of this to working. Let's see, just need one more to be working. That one's damaged, unfortunately. And of course that one's damaged, so I do need to make my way back over there at some point to fix one of those engines. But it's nice to have found this room to just know what I'm getting myself into right off the bat. Okay, so I think I might loop around this way again and try to find the hatch, but I think because I'm I'm so ahead of the game as far as what I need to do to complete my objective. I think it's just better to do a straight shot here for the cockpit. So I'm going to do interruption and demolition to move carefully. And when you're using this script with the auto tool on to move carefully, you flip your character upside down before dropping him, and it will acknowledge that as a careful movement. So a door shows up here. It's evac section A. And I still need to place my noise for the careful movement. Of course, I'm placing it there. And let's see. So there's no larva in this game, so I usually like to pass with one card in hand to protect for a larva surprise attack, but because most of the symbols on the back of these cards is greater than 1, I see no sense in just holding on to 1. So I think I'm going to move. Yeah, I'm going to move. Let me double check my quest items again here. Discard energy charge to activate. And activate in storage. Okay, so I'm going to do a standard move. It's going to do my noise roll for me. Okay, got lucky. And now I'm in the cockpit. So, let's see what my handyman trait. You can use your starting and quest items as yellow. Oh, okay, so if I unlock these, I can also use those. But now I'm sitting on 3 yellow items. I don't expect to ever be using this trait. Okay, so now that I'm out of cards, I'm passing. So we're going to move the time track. No intruder attacks, no fire. Resolve event card. Nothing's moving. Monophobia. Each character alone in a room and not in combat draws and resolves a panic card. Okay, so our first panic card. Let's see what happens. So 3+ is the number on the top left. Because I do not have that much, I'm just going to simply increase my insanity by 1 step and ignore the rest of the card. And this is a good example for something you would do. Let's say I did have enough insanity here. And it says discard all ammo markers from one of your weapons. So since I technically cannot resolve that effect, I would instead bump myself up by an insanity level. So because I'm not at the 3+, we're going to make things easy and just go up in insanity. So now if I ever trigger an encounter, I will be joined by an adult or a whisperer. Okay, so that was just for the event. Now we're doing the lurking, which is not going to apply here, so bag development. Okay, it's my insanity token, and what happens with that is return it to the bag. The character of a corresponding color resolves a panic card, so I'm just resolving another panic card. 2+, ripping off the bandages. Deal 1 light wound to your character and undress 1 serious wound. So this is interesting because I can only resolve part of it. So I feel like just if I go by the rule book, because I cannot resolve this, I should technically go up in insanity. Deal 1 light wound to your character and undress 1 serious wound. So I'm just going to resolve it like that. I'm going to go up in insanity, which is annoying because now I'm already past that one-way street mark. Now I cannot go down in insanity any further. Okay. So, yep, I essentially just moved up in insanity twice here. So let's move on now to, so that was the intruder bag development step. Yes, yes. So now we're in the new player phase. Okay, so let's draw our 5 cards. Still no encounter, so I don't have to pick an objective yet, which is nice. Okay, so now of course I draw my rest card after I've already gained insanity twice here, so I can't even use it to go down in insanity right now. So we're going to spend 2 cards. We're going to do rest and technical corridors to check the coordinates. So Earth is D. And then we're going to spend search and let's do fast repairs to change it to D. Okay, so the ship is heading to Earth. We just gotta fix the engines. Alright, what do I want to do? I want to keep ingenuity kind of. I want to move this way again. Still no noise in the technical corridors. My noise situation isn't the best. Okay, let's just pass. So, move time track, no intruders attacking, no fire damage, event card. Nothing's moving, fear. Every character whose insanity level is higher than the number of cards in their hand draws a contamination card. Okay, well my insanity level's 3, I only have 1 card in hand, and all I get is a contamination card. Okay, no big deal. So that was the event. We cannot resolve lurking, so we're doing the bag. And we return it to the bag, and we just perform a noise roll in order. Okay, not in a good spot right now. Looking for a 3, is it? Corridor 2. Okay, so we trigger an encounter here. Let's see what we get. Okay, so it is a 3 on the back. So I will be surprise attacked, and my insanity track shows a whisper is what I'm on right now. So we're putting a whisper in here, and it doesn't matter what type of intruder is joining you. For any surprise attack, you get the contamination card, and you resolve a panic card. So let's see what we get. Heart attack. Okay, well that would have been terrible, but we are not at 5 yet, so we need to increase our insanity by 1. But it's nice that that's out of the deck. I believe there's 1 more of those that exist. Okay, so that's it. So now we're in the new player phase. And at this point I need to pick a objective. We're going to pick the ship must reach Earth objective. Alright, so I don't have any ammo, so I think my best course of action here is just to run from this thing. There's some items in here, but this is the closed door. Can I open that? Let's go this way. So we're gonna use demolition to move. Okay, so I found another layer. That intruder does attack me on my way out, so let's see what happens. Dismay. The character gets 1 contamination card, draw and resolve a panic card. Damn. So 1 contamination. And let's do the panic card. 2+, sabotage. Reduce the item counter to 0 in the room you are in. Okay, and that's not terrible. There's only 1 item in there anyway, and it's the generator room. Okay, and there's a layer in here. So I don't have any ammo still. So I think my best course of action here is to run so that I don't have to roll for noise. I'm not going to try to melee it and gain the contam anyway, so let's just move. Let's use fast repairs here to move. Hatch? What's the airlock? Might be helpful if the... I don't know if the despoiler can be targeted by an airlock. You would think so. Can layers be targeted by airlock? Yes, they can. Okay, so let's see. In that case, I'm going to discard duct tape. Let's do duct tape. Actually, no. I'm just going to use my... No, can I search this room? I can. I'm still hoping to find chemicals and get it. So I'm going to keep ingenuity. I am going to discard computer skills to use duct tape to remove this malfunction marker. Then I want to stay in this room because I want to actually airlock this guy. So I'm just going to pass. I'm going to get rid of my contamination as I do so. I'm going to keep ingenuity. And that's that. So move time track, no intruder attacks, no fire damage, event card. So that adult is moving through corridor 2. And the effect is whispers. Draw another event card. Then in turn order, each character places a noise marker in each corridor whose number matches the direction number on that drawn event card and that is connected to a room containing a character. If any of these corridors already have a noise marker, resolve an encounter instead. Afterward, discard the drawn event card without resolving it. Okay, so we're going to draw another one and look at the number. So it is a 3. So I'm placing a noise marker in the corridor 3 adjacent to me. So I heard a whisper down corridor 3. So we're going to just discard that without resolving it. Okay, so that was the event. Now it's time for lurking, which we can actually resolve now. So for lurking, we find rooms that contain any VoidSeeders not in combat and with no characters in any of the neighboring rooms. So this guy is not in combat, and there are no characters in any, well, I guess just these 2 rooms. So this will apply. Place a noise marker in each corridor connected to these rooms. So we're going to place a noise marker in each corridor connected to an alien's room that fulfills those conditions. Remove all VoidSeeders in these rooms from the board and add 1 random VoidSeeder token to the bag for each one removed this way. So you can see how the VoidSeeders, they kind of fall off of the map, but noise is left behind. So this whisper, we're going to put this back in the bag. Okay, so that was lurking. Now it's the bag step. Yes. So we roll for noise in turn order. 3. Of course we get an encounter here, so gonna take those off. And let's see what we get from the bag. Okay, it's my card, which means that we just resolve a panic card. 3+, self-mutilation. Deal 2 light wounds to your character. Okay. Not the worst thing. 2 light wounds, no big deal. I have clothes, right? Oh, that just stresses serious wound. Okay, maybe a big deal in the future. Okay, so that was the bag development step. So we're now in the player phase. So I'm drawing 4 cards here. Okay, so this is good. So let's first search this room. Come on, chemicals. Hey, we got it. Alright, did I discard my search card? I did not. Now let's use ingenuity. Craft an item. You can use any yellow item. Guess in this case I don't really need to use ingenuity, but see, I'll get rid of technical corridors just to craft an item. I have the symbols I need to make a flamethrower already in here. And I want to keep my clothes. So we're going to discard these 2. And we're going to get a flamethrower. Let's go. I'm going to need to, you know what, I'm just going to get rid of my, no, because I can't reload this. If I find energy charges, this could still be useful to keep. Yeah, we're not going to go for weaknesses here. I'm going to drop this carcass, and I'm going to fill up this hand slot with my flamethrower. Alright, so that was a craft. And now I'm going to use these 2 cards to target this and do the airlock. So when you do an airlock, you close all doors adjacent to a room. Add this token here, and then at the end of this round, if these doors have not been opened by anything, then everything in this room dies. Also, I should note that when you're using the airlock procedure room, you must be targeting a yellow room. So since this is yellow, we can do this. Okay, and since I'm out of actions, because all I have is contamination, I'm just going to pass and discard this, which means that this airlock procedure has been completed. So essentially, at the end of the round, the current player phase, if these doors haven't been opened, then proceed with the procedure. So this has been destroyed. And I believe the carcass it leaves behind gets airlocked too. If there was fire in this room, that would be removed. So we're just going to play like that, because I don't think I care about the carcass anyways. I can always come back and pick this one up. And these doors, I believe, also stay closed. Alright, moving on to the event phase. Move time track. No intruder attack, no fire damage. Event. Nothing is moving. Hunt. Move every VoidSeeder not in combat. So we already got that one, and it cannot be resolved, so that's great. We cannot resolve lurking, so now it's bag development. Great, another panic card for me. Four plus, destruction. Discard a heavy item, not a heavy object, from your hand, if possible. Okay. So I'm going to then... I'm going to need to discard my sawed-off. Oh, man. So because I can resolve this, I have to discard a heavy item from your hand. Yeah, I'm going to discard that. And I have 4 insanity, right? I do. Okay. So that was the bag. Nice. So we're going to draw our cards. So draw my last 3 here. Shuffling my remaining 2. Well, maybe I can build another flamethrower. Just dual wield flamethrowers. Okay. Hell, do I have a search card? I think I want to do that. Well, this room's empty anyway, so not so fast. Alright then, in that case, I'm going to use my rest action to reduce my insanity by 1. And then we're going to move. So let's use this to move. I'm going to start heading to the engines that I need to fix. Fire control system. And I'm in a yellow room again, so let's search this room for more yellows. Chemicals? No. Let's see. Check any tiles. That's kind of nice, but not tokens. And then here's tools again, so we're gonna keep the tools. Okay, let's use fast repairs. I'm not going to let the game screw me over by malfunctions and stuff. I'm just going to fix this. Who knows, maybe I need it someday. And then I'm going to use demolition to move. Uh-oh, so we got an encounter. There's a door that was placed behind me. We found the armory. Well, that would have been nice if I still had my shotgun. Okay, so encounter, which means I draw from the bag. Ooh, it's the blank. Very nice. So for the blank, you just place a noise marker in each corridor connected to the room and return the blank to the bag. So got really lucky there. Only to have to pass and maybe roll for noise again. So anyways, let's move the time track. No, so hibernation's open for business now because we've crossed this threshold. No intruder attacks, no fire damage, event card. Nothing's moving, terror. Each character draws cards from their action deck until they have 5 cards in hand and scans all their contamination cards. If they have at least 1 infected card, increase their insanity level to 5. Afterward, all characters whose insanity level is 5 discard all action cards from their hand. Okay, so first step of this is that I need to draw cards until I have 5 cards in hand. So I have 0 cards in hand right now, so I'm just drawing 5 cards. Oh, yikes. Okay. Scan all their contamination cards. If they have at least one infected card, increase their insanity level to 5. So let's just do that. Clear. Clear. Of course, infected. So we are now at 5 insanity. And then the last bit of this card said, afterward, all characters whose insanity level is 5, discard all action cards from their hand. Okay, so I'm guessing that includes these contams, so we're going to get rid of these as well. So that was just the event. Oh man, this is going to escalate quickly. So we cannot resolve lurking. So now we're doing the bag. And it's a random VoidSeeder token, which means we roll for noise. I need that silence result. Oh my gosh, lucky day. We out here. Let's go. So we're in the next round. Draw these 3. And these 2. Okay, so let's see here. I could search this room. Maybe find a weapon or a grenade or something, but I think I'm kind of chilling on my flamethrower for a second. So let's use computer skills to move. Wait, how did I get slimed? Okay, hold on. So that was a door. Not sure what the code did there. So a door is shut behind me. Let's look at what the text here says. A door has been shut behind you. Reeds has rolled silence, but their slime status changed it to danger. No, okay, so I rolled a silence and I cannot be slimed, so I'm not sure what happened there with the script. Because why didn't that happen last time when I rolled the X? Anyways, this noise was already here, I'm sure of. So that's it for the movement. I cannot search the nest, of course, nor do I care about doing anything about destroying the eggs. So in that case, we're just going to move to this engine room. Danger, okay, fine. And then I'm going to use Ingenuity to fix this engine. So double check it with Shift Alt. It is working. Okay, so that's 2 engines fixed. So our objective's complete. If we get to the Hibernatorium, then we're done. However, I do have a lot of contamination cards as far as that endgame check is concerned. So I'm wondering if I can get enough rest cards and surgery, if I can get like an antidote or surgery. Let's see here. Antidote. How do I craft antidote? That's a fire and a medical symbol. Oh, I don't have either of those. So I don't know. Maybe I just end up taking my chances. Let's see, what do I want to do? I think I have time to maybe take this path and maybe find the surgery room on my way there. Or maybe I can come over here and essentially shower until I'm out of contamination cards. Alright, let's just discard my search to move then. Oh, we found surgery, very, very nice. Okay. But it did, what did I roll here? It said I rolled in a 4 and there was noise there, so I do have to do an encounter. Let's see what we get. It's got a 3 on the back, so my current insanity is 5, so we're going to get the despoiler. Look how big it is. And it is going to surprise attack me, but all of them work the same way. Watch, I'm probably going to draw the heart attack. Oh man, so the surprise attack is the same for all of them. It's 1 contamination and a panic card. Sabotage. Reduce the item counter to 0 in the room I'm in. Okay, not too bad. But there goes the concept of using surgery. I mean, I could use a flamethrower and make a retreat. I feel like we haven't seen a lot of retreat symbols here. So let's give that a shot. Okay, so that was just for me moving, and now it's going to attack me in the intruder attack step, unfortunately, because I can't do anything. I must pass, so I'm going to pass and discard that as I do. So move time track, intruder attack, so we're going to draw a card for the despoiler. It hits me with the scratch. I get 1 light wound and a contamination card, which gives me a serious wound. Of course it's body. It's always body. So I get to only draw 4 cards. Okay, so no fire damage. We get to resolve an event card. It's not moving. Whispers. Draw another event card. Then in turn order, each character places a noise marker on each quarter whose number matches. Okay, so we've got this one already. Now I just need to remember if I still need to do this if I'm in combat. Looks like I do. So draw another event card. Corridor 2 is where I'm hearing whispers from. So that's this way. Okay, so that was the event. Right? Yes. Okay, lurking we cannot resolve because he's in my room. If the despoiler was farther away from me, then we would be actually doing something. But since it's in combat, so let's see what we get here. Of course, I get the panic card. So when it's the character insanity token, return this token to character versus corresponding color. It resolves a panic. I'm going to check the rule book here just to make sure that combat doesn't matter here. Okay, confirmed. Even if I'm in combat, I have to do this. So let's do the panic card. Hallucinations. Discard all ammo markers from one of your weapons. God damn it. Well, there goes my handy flamethrower. Now I need chemicals just to reload my flamethrower. Okay, so that was a brutal event phase. So now we're in the new player phase. I'm going to draw 4 cards because of my newly received wound. Anyways, let's see. What do we want to do here? I can't do any of these in combat other than demolition. I really wanted to use surgery. So let's just make some space away from this thing so that maybe the lurking might trigger and it gets removed from the board. So let's just run, take our damage from the attack. So, oh, and I found the hatch, which is kind of nice, and the last layer. Okay, so can't really do anything about it because I have no ammo right now. And nor do I have a search card to try to find anything. I don't have to make a noise roll, which is good. But I do need to check the attack from the queen. Dismay. The character gets 1 contamination card, draw and resolve. Oh man. This is really rough because I feel like the heart attack card is coming. Pyromaniac. Place a fire marker in the room you are in if there is none. Oh, that's kind of nice because now this thing's going to take damage. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I have pyrotechnics. I could just put it out. But I can't even do that while I'm in combat anyway. So, yeah, you're going to be taking damage, bud. And I can't use the hatch until I kill this thing too. So, can't really do anything here. I'm going to use fast repairs to move here. Back to where we started. Oh man, I rolled a danger, gosh. And then for my last card, I'm going to dress my body serious wound using my clothes. Screw that serious wound, for real. And then I'm going to pass because it's only a contamination card. Okay, so move time track. No intruder attack, but we are going to do some fire damage here. So we're always going to draw 2 cards. So there's a retreat symbol, so it's not dead. Even if that number was a 1, which I don't think any of them are. Okay, next would be the event card. So nothing is moving on the board since it's just a layer and the despoiler, which means lurking is going to help me here. Hunt. Move every Voidseeder not in combat to a neighboring room with a character if possible. Okay, so that cannot be resolved because layers cannot move. And we're doing lurking. Remove all Voidseeders in the rooms from the board and add one random Voidseeder token to the bag for each Voidseeder removed this way. So that's this room. The despoiler's coming off the board, and we're filling that room with noise. And then we have to put a new Voidseeder token in the bag. Okay. So that was for lurking, yes? Now we need to do the bag step. The blank, very nice. So the blank is just return this token to the bag, add a random Voidseeder token to the intruder bag. Alright, nice. Got rid of the body serious wound as well, so we get to draw 5 cards again. Alright, so as my first action, I'm going to use rest here because I know that even if these are infected, I can't die, and if they're not, I get to remove them from the board. So I'm going to use it to scan these 2 cards. Okay, so that's discarded. And that's discarded. Okay, clearing up a little bit of space in my inventory here. Let's see. I mean, I could hibernate. I don't really know what my contamination situation looks like right now. I would love to make it back to the surgery room, though I think it might be prudent for me to spend some time in the shower room just getting rid of contams and then coming back and hibernating, just straight up, not worrying about anything else. All right, we're just gonna risk it. We're gonna carefully move into the shower room. Place my token there and pass. Okay. So move time track. No intruders attacking. This guy's gonna take fire damage. A 2, another 2. Ah, that would have been nice. Alright, so it's not dead. Let's see. Event. Nothing's moving. Fire wave. Find the room with the lowest room number with a fire marker. Place a fire marker in each neighboring room. Fire does not spread through closed doors or technical corridors. Okay, yikes. So here's one room. Here's one room. Here's one room. Oh, the nest is also going to get destroyed, I guess, for whatever that's worth. Okay. So now that was the event, we're doing the lurking, which does not apply right now because there's no intruders on the board. Intruder bag development. Damn, man, I'm eventually gonna grab that heart attack card. Oh man, okay. Deal 1 light wound to your character and undress 1 serious wound. Okay, so it's good that I can resolve this because I think that I would have died if I need to bring my insanity up another 1 for any reason. And if I couldn't resolve this, then I think I'm dead. So I can, which screw me, I get the body back. And I get the light wound. Alright, so that's it for the bag development step. Alright, not too bad. So let's draw our 4 cards for the new round. Yikes. I didn't have to roll for noise, which is great. I'm going to use the shower room action. I'm going to use it to bring my insanity down 1. I don't know if this is the play or not, but I feel like there's another heart attack card in the deck, and I think it might be coming up here. And if I'm still at 5, I really don't want to die this late in the game. So, okay, that's fine. I'm just going to use it for that. You know, I'd love if I can stay in this room and use it to get rid of contams if possible. So I'm going to discard these 2 cards and pass again. But now I need to make sure I have enough time to get back to the Hibernatorium and sleep. Okay, move time track, no intruder attacks, fire damage to this guy again. A 3 and a retreat. Yikes, so it's still not dead. Alright. Now we're doing the event. Nothing's moving. Terror. Each character draws cards from their action deck until they have 5 cards in hand and scans all their contamination cards. If they have at least one infected card, increase their insanity level to 5. Afterward, all characters whose insanity level is 5 discard all action cards from their hand. Okay, wow. So I use the shower room just to essentially bring it back up in insanity. So it is what it is. Assuming I draw contams here. So 5 cards. Okay, there's my 2 contams. So let's see here. That's an infected one, and I'm going to scan all of it just to gain the knowledge. So I do have 2 infected cards in hand. So I am going up back right up to 5. And I have to discard all action cards from my hand. Okay, so that was just the event. We cannot resolve lurking yet again, so now it's bag. Roll for noise and turn order. I need a 1 or a silence here, or a danger. Heck yes, okay, so silence is great. Jeez, got lucky there. Alright, 4 cards for me. Alright, let's see. I'm going to search this room. Nope, I can't. Alright, so I'm going to use the shower room to... I'm going to use it to bring my insanity down again. I'm just kind of in a vicious cycle here. Then I kind of want the intruder to spawn here, to be honest. So I want it to spawn here, maybe move here and try to escape. Or maybe I spawn it here first, and then the fire might make it retreat, such that it's open to hibernate. I think that's the better play. So I'm going to use ingenuity to move. I already brought my insanity down 1, so I can't die, I guess, from a panic card surprise attack. So yeah, let's just move here. Hopefully it's not a silence or a danger. Okay, so we do get an encounter. What do we got here? Okay, it's a 1 and I have a card in hand, so it doesn't surprise attack me, so that's kind of nice. But it is going to be a stalker. That's a big hoss. Okay. Let's see. I started the round with 4 cards. Well, it doesn't matter because I think I'm just going to pass anyways. Yeah, I'm just going to pass anyways. So I am going to take the light wound from the fire. I'll discard this contamination card. Alright, so move time track. Intruder attack, so this stalker attacks me with a bite. If the character has at least 2 serious wounds, they die. Otherwise, they suffer 1 serious wound. Okay, so 1 serious wound, bleeding, yikes. Okay, it's a good thing I'm about to get off this ship. Fire damage. This guy takes a fire damage, so let's see what happens with him. A 6 and a 3. Okay. So no retreat. That's really annoying. This takes a fire damage, so we're going to do the same thing. 2 and 4. Okay, so the final layer is off the board. The despoiler is removed from the game. Oh, I'm actually impressed with myself that I destroyed all 3 layers here, or at least fire helped me do so, so not bad. Okay, so that was for the fire step. Now resolve event card. He's not moving because he's in combat with me. Each character draws cards from their action deck until they have 5 cards in hand. Okay, so same thing as before. So bringing me back up to insanity again. Oh wait, is it for... They have at least one infected card, increase their insanity level to 5. Oh, okay, so first we gotta see if anything's infected. Okay, of course. So now we discard all of these, and I go back up to 5. Alright, so that's it for that. We can't resolve lurking. So we're in intruder bag development step. Which is... Oh my gosh, I keep drawing this one when I'm in combat already. Yikes. Heart attack? Kill me? No. Bloodlust. Deal 1 serious wound to every other character in the room you are in. If you are alone, deal 1 serious wound to your character. Okay. So I'm technically still alive, but I need to somehow... Okay, body. Wow, so this is... I'm pretty sure this is the end for me here, because I'm only drawing 4 cards, and I need to somehow get this to retreat as well as successfully hibernate. And then even then I'm not safe. But I only draw 4 cards, and I'll need to draw at least 3 that aren't contams to be able to pull this off at all. Right? So, yeah. So I'm not dead because I didn't have the 3 serious wounds already. It's when you have 3 serious wounds and then take any additional damage after that. So even if I had these light wounds here, so at my current state, I'm technically still alive even though I received this 3rd serious wound and I have more than 3 serious wounds. It's because it's after you already have 3 serious wounds and you take additional damage is when you die. Okay, so that is it for that. We're going to draw our 4 cards, no contams. 1 contam, okay. Well, it needs to be this way. I need to melee it. Yeah, I absolutely need to melee it and not die from the melee. And it's a stalker, right? Oh, yikes. Okay, so this is terrible. Okay, melee. Okay, it hits. Nice. So I can do 1 damage to it. Please retreat. It doesn't retreat, which means I've effectively lost. So I needed to draw my contam here. And the reason for that is because I'm going to bleed and take another wound. Yep. So that's it. I'm going to melee it again just to see what would have happened. I would have hit it again. Let's see. Still wouldn't have retreated, and it wasn't enough damage to kill it. So, all right, let's just melee. Let's keep meleeing this thing. Let's go out swinging at least. And that's a miss. Okay, so I get dealt another serious wound, and I die. Wow, okay, so I went 0 for 3 in solo runs against the different intruder types for all my tutorials, so that definitely makes me lose credibility on the tutorial aspect of it, but I hope you learned what you wanted to learn as far as playing with the VoidSeeders. I hope the video was fun to watch, seeing me suffer at the end of the game here. Everything looked really nice from the beginning to the middle until the end, where things started to escalate quickly. Essentially when this insanity track went a little too high for my liking, and we got a little unlucky with encounters as well, having to do panics over and over again. We managed to at least get the despoiler off the ship, killing all 3 layers. I think that's something that's not easy to do in a solo run. So all in all, I still had a good time. I think Nemesis is one of the only games where I actually have fun losing. In this case, I've lost all 3 in a row, but if you missed the other tutorials, I'll add a card to the top of the screen here if you want to go check out the Carnivores or the base intruders playthroughs and tutorials. I do have a Discord server that's board game themed that you're free to join. The link is on the screen, but I'll also put it in the description. I like to stream board gaming as well as just other video games in general on Twitch at VoidSeeders. I'll also put that link in the description. If you thought this video was helpful and you'd like to see others, please like, comment, and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. And with that, I hope you have a great day. See you soon.